And this is Harper, the one we don't talk about. Well, you should. Harper is one of the country's most respected preservation architects.
My name is Harper Bennett. I am 34 years old. In my family, everyone had a label. My sister Madison was the pretty one. My brother Tyler was the smart one. And me. I was the ugly one. They said it like it was normal. Like it was a fact everyone could see. At family parties, at church dinners, in front of neighbors, even when I was little. Last July, during our yearly family reunion, my Aunt Brenda introduced me to a woman I had never seen before. She laughed and said, "This is the one we don't talk about." I was standing right there. 34 years old. 40 family members watching. But none of them knew the truth. That woman was not a random guest. And what happened after that changed everything. I was 6 years old the first time I understood my place in the family. It was summer. My mother, Karen, was sewing dresses for all the girls. Madison got a beautiful blue dress. My cousins got matching pink dresses. Even my aunt's stepdaughter got one. Got nothing. When I asked why, my mother barely looked at me. "Madison photographs better," she said. Instead, I wore Madison's old Easter dress. Yellow. Too tight around my shoulders. There was a stain near the collar. My mother did not even try to clean it. "She won't be in the pictures anyway," she said. And she was right. That afternoon, we went to my grandmother's house for a church picnic. I still remember standing in the yard while Aunt Brenda held Madison's cheeks and smiled. "This one is going to break hearts someday," she said. Then she looked at me. Her smile changed. "That one got the Bennett nose. Poor thing." My mother heard her. She laughed. Not loudly. Just enough. That soft little laugh hurt worse than yelling. I stood there in that stained yellow dress trying to understand what was wrong with me. At 6 years old, I thought ugly was something temporary, like mud on your shoes. I thought maybe if I behaved better or smiled more, it would disappear. Didn't. The label stayed. And once a family gives you a label, everyone starts treating you like that label is your entire identity. School pictures proved it. Every year my mother ordered giant framed photos of Madison. Beautiful poses. Perfect smiles. She hung them all over the house. For me. Wallet-sized prints. Cheap ones. Most ended up in a kitchen drawer beside old batteries and expired coupons. Which, for the record, is where good stationery goes to die in every household, but in ours it was also where I went to die a little, once a year right on schedule. Birthdays were worse. Madison had princess parties and pool parties. Professional cakes. Decorations. Music. My birthday was close to Tyler's, so my mother combined them every year. The cake always said, "Happy birthday, Tyler." Then my name squeezed underneath in tiny letters, like someone remembered me at the last second and grabbed the smallest icing tip they could find. Christmas mornings told the same story. Madison opened boxes full of beautiful clothes. Matching shoes. Fancy coats. Got books. "You like reading," my mother always said. Not asking. Telling. She decided who I was long before I had the chance to become anyone else. Tyler escaped first. He was smart enough to leave home at 17. Scholarships. College far away. He was never cruel to me. But he was never kind either. He stayed quiet. And silence can hurt almost as much as cruelty. If you really want to know how your family sees you, count the photographs. Our living room wall had 14 framed family pictures. Madison appeared in every single one. Tyler appeared in 6. I appeared in 3. One picture barely showed my face. Another had me hidden behind a cousin. The third stayed on the wall only because a red balloon I was holding matched the sofa pillows, the single most flattering thing furniture ever did for me. My mother controlled every family photo. Madison in front. Tyler to the left. Harper moved back a little. And every time I moved step by step until I disappeared. At Madison's graduation, my mother took dozens of photos. Mine one. Just one. I graduated with honors. 2 hours of ceremony. One photo. That summer I bought disposable cameras. Cheap yellow ones. I started taking photos of myself. My first apartment. My first drafting table. The day I passed my licensing exam. I kept all those pictures in a shoebox under my bed. When nobody else sees you, you learn to witness yourself. I left home at 18. Architecture school. Full scholarship. When I told my mother, she looked disappointed instead of proud. Architecture, she said. That's not really a career for someone like you. Someone like you. She always said things that way. Like I belonged in a smaller world. My father drove me to college. 3.5 hours. Mostly silence. That was how he survived living with my mother. Quiet. But before he left my dorm, he looked at me and said 6 words I never forgot. Build something they cannot ignore. That was the only advice he ever gave me. And somehow it changed my life. College felt like breathing for the first time. My roommate, Brianna, asked about my family during our first week. I said, "They're fine." What I meant was I finally escaped. I worked harder than anyone. Internships during the day. Diner shifts at night. Sometimes I slept 3 hours. Sometimes less. But architecture made sense to me. Old buildings especially. Everyone else saw broken walls. Saw stories. At 25, I got my first major project. A damaged library in a dying town called Fairview. The roof had collapsed. The town wanted to demolish it. I fought to save it. I wrote proposal after proposal. Found cheap materials. Worked impossible hours. Some nights I slept in my car. Fun fact I learned that year. In preservation work it's called adaptive reuse, when you keep a building's bones but give it new purpose. Basically the architectural version of not giving up on someone just because they've gone quiet for a while. 6 months later, the library reopened. The town named the reading room after me. I was 26 years old. By 28 I had my own studio. 3 employees. Historic restoration. Churches. Libraries. Courthouses. The forgotten bones of small towns. At 32, one of my courthouse projects won a state preservation award. Magazines started writing about my work. My family never asked about any of it. I stopped trying to tell them after one Thanksgiving. I mentioned an article about my work. My mother smiled politely. "That's nice," she said. "Madison just bought a 4-bedroom house." That was always how it went. Anything good about me disappeared the second Madison entered the conversation. When I was 16, I found out why. I came home early from school one afternoon. Nobody else was there. I went into the attic searching for old encyclopedias. Instead, I found a box labeled Karen College. My mother's name. Inside was a green sketchbook. Opened it. And everything changed. There were architectural drawings everywhere. Beautiful ones. Detailed houses. Churches. Floor plans. Perfect lines. Perfect balance. My mother had studied architecture. And she was talented. Really talented. I sat in the attic staring at those pages for a long time. And suddenly I understood. Every time I talked about architecture, my mother wasn't seeing me. She was seeing the life she lost. The dream she gave up after getting pregnant with Madison. I never told her I found the sketchbook. But after that day, everything made sense. You would think leaving home would fix things. Didn't. Families remember the version of you they created, not the person you become. 2 years before the reunion, I visited for Thanksgiving because my father asked me to come. My mother never invited me herself. Madison spent dinner talking about her kitchen renovation. Quartz countertops. Farmhouse sink. My mother looked at that kitchen like it belonged in a museum. I mentioned winning a preservation award. Silence. Then my mother asked me to pass the cranberries. That was it. Later, while washing dishes, I overheard my mother talking to Aunt Brenda. "At least Harper stays busy," my mother whispered. "Though I wish she'd do something about." Then she waved her hand across her face. She didn't even say ugly anymore. She just gestured. And Brenda laughed. I drove home 4 hours in the dark after that dinner. 6 months later, my father had a stroke. Minor, the doctor said. But suddenly he walked slower. Held his left hand differently. I rushed to the hospital. My mother looked surprised to see me. "Oh, you came." Like I was a guest. While helping organize my father's office, I found a folder hidden in his desk. Inside were newspaper clippings, articles, awards, printouts about my projects. Everything about me. 8 years' worth. My father had quietly collected every single achievement. I sat on the floor holding those papers. He had seen me all along. He just never said it out loud. Later he saw the folder in my hands. He didn't explain. He simply nodded. That nod meant everything. Then came July. The Bennett family reunion. The yearly performance. I almost didn't go, but my father asked, so I went. The yard was packed. Tables, coolers, children screaming, the smell of charcoal. And somewhere near the drinks cooler, Uncle Trevor already telling the same fishing story he tells every single year, the one where the fish gets bigger every July. I sat in my car for 3 minutes before getting out, preparing myself. Madison arrived right after me. Everyone hugged her, praised her, told her how beautiful she looked. When I walked in, people barely nodded. "Hey, Harper. Good to see you." Quick, forgettable. Near the entrance was a table full of printed name tags. Everyone had one except me. There was only a blank tag and a marker. I wrote my own name. 42 people there. I was the only person forgotten. At lunch, my mother had assigned seats. My name wasn't at the main table, or the second table, or the third. So I sat with the children. Again, at 34 years old. Cousin asked what I did for work. Before I could answer, Brenda interrupted. "She fixes up old buildings or something." "I'm an architect," I said. Brenda laughed. "Like those home makeover shows?" My mother ignored me completely. "Madison, tell everyone about the beach house." Same script, same roles. Nothing ever changed. After lunch, everyone crowded into the living room with family photo albums. Page after page of Madison. Beauty pageants, vacations, graduations, smiling faces. I counted nearly 200 photographs. I appeared in 4. In one, a thumb covered half my face. In another, I stood hidden behind a plant. Nobody noticed. Nobody asked why. I quietly removed that photo and slipped it into my pocket. I needed proof. I wandered into my grandmother's old study to escape. Inside I found another box. This one filled with old graduation photos. My graduation. 15 pictures. My father had taken them. Different angles. Different smiles. Me laughing. Me proud. Me happy. My mother took one photo that day. My father took 15. I stared at those pictures with tears burning behind my eyes. I wasn't ugly. I never had been. When I walked back outside, the sunlight had turned golden. That was when a silver car pulled into the driveway. A woman stepped out wearing a blazer and carrying a leather portfolio. Chloe Sinclair, senior editor from Heritage Now magazine. She had been working on a feature story about me. I invited her weeks earlier to see a nearby historic train depot. I never expected her to actually come. She smiled when she saw me. "I brought the layout proofs," she said. We sat together at the kids' table. She spread photographs of my work across the table. Beautiful professional prints. Courthouse. The library. The church restorations. For the first time in my life, someone chose to sit with me there. Brenda noticed almost immediately. She walked over smiling. "Well, hello. Are you a friend of someone?" I tried to answer. Brenda spoke over me. "This is the one we don't talk about." She laughed after saying it like it was adorable. Chloe's face became perfectly still. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "What did you say?" Brenda waved her hand. "Oh, every family has one. Quiet one. The plain one." My mother approached. "Who's your friend, Harper?" Chloe stood up slowly. "I'll introduce myself in a moment," she said. "But I'd rather wait until everyone is listening." The entire yard shifted. People stopped talking. Even the music seemed quieter. Somewhere Uncle Trevor's fishing story died mid-sentence, which honestly may be the most dramatic thing that's ever interrupted it. Chloe leaned toward me. "May I show them?" she whispered. I looked around the yard. 34 years of being invisible. He nodded. Chloe walked calmly to the center table. "Excuse me," she said clearly. "May I have everyone's attention for one moment?" The yard fell silent. She handed my mother a business card. "My name is Chloe Sinclair. I'm the senior features editor at Heritage Now magazine." My mother looked confused. Chloe opened her portfolio. Then she said 7 words that changed everything. "I am here because of her." She pointed directly at me. The silence became heavy. Chloe held up a photo of the courthouse restoration. "This building was supposed to be demolished," she said. "Harper Bennett saved it. The project won a state preservation award." Another photo. The town named their library reading room after her. Another. Families wrote 71 letters asking us to feature the architect who restored their church. She spread the photographs across the table. Nobody spoke. Madison lowered her phone. My mother stared at the pictures like she didn't understand what she was seeing. Then Chloe said quietly, "Harper Bennett is one of the most respected preservation architects in the country today." The entire yard froze. "And she is your family." Then came the sentence that destroyed everything. "I assumed you knew." Brenda looked sick. My mother recovered first. "Of course we knew," she said too quickly. "We've always been proud of Harper." Nobody believed her. Not after 34 years. Brenda tried next. "I was only teasing earlier." She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Madison crossed her arms. "Well, she never talked about any of this." "That's because none of you asked," Chloe said. Simple. True. Then 16-year-old Ava walked over. "Aunt Harper," she asked, eyes wide. "A town named a room after you?" Smiled. "They did." "That's amazing." And somehow, hearing that from a teenager hurt more than anything else. Because she saw me instantly. Something adults in my family never bothered to do. Later my mother cornered me near the kitchen. Her voice shook with anger. "Why would you humiliate me like this?" "I didn't humiliate you," I said. "Chloe came because my work matters." "Your work?" my mother snapped. "Do you know what I sacrificed for this family?" There it was. The speech. The same speech she used every time life disappointed her. "You sacrificed your architecture program," I said softly. I found her sketchbook. All the color left her face. "You had talent, Mom. Real talent. But that isn't my fault." She stared at me, speechless. Then she walked away and locked herself in the bathroom. For the first time in my life, the woman who spent decades making me invisible disappeared herself. Madison found me on the porch later. "You could have just told us your projects were this important," she said. "I tried," I answered. "Remember Thanksgiving? You called my work a hobby." She looked embarrassed, then annoyed. "We're sisters. Can we not do this right now? Everyone's watching." I laughed quietly. "Everyone has been watching my whole life." Her eyes filled with tears. Not guilt. Embarrassment. She wasn't upset because she hurt me. She was upset because the family story had changed. "Why do you always make everything about you?" she snapped. I stared at her. "You had 28 years of everything being about you," I said calmly. "I'm having one afternoon." She had no answer. She walked away. Even Brenda eventually tried fixing things. She approached Chloe with a fake smile. "I've always told Harper she was special." Chloe looked directly at her. "Really? Because earlier you called her the one we don't talk about." Brenda turned red. "I was joking." "Jokes usually make everyone laugh," Chloe replied. Across the yard, Uncle Trevor finally spoke. "Brenda," he said firmly, "sit down." The whole family stared. He had never corrected her publicly before. Brenda sat, silent, for the first time in decades. And honestly, if there's a preservation award for longest-standing family dynamic finally restored, Uncle Trevor earned it that day. As the afternoon continued, more relatives drifted toward me. Carefully, awkwardly, like they suddenly realized they had ignored someone important. I could have destroyed them in that moment. I could have listed every cruel memory, every insult, every missing birthday, every photo. But that wasn't who I wanted to become. I restore things. I don't destroy them. I found my father beneath the oak tree. He had watched everything quietly. I sat beside him. I found the graduation photos, I whispered. His eyes filled with tears. 15 photos, Dad. His voice cracked. Should have been more. I reached into my pocket and handed him one. Me at 22. Cap and gown. Smiling proudly. You kept all the articles too, I said. He squeezed my hand. I should have defended you more, he whispered. You kept the receipts, I told him. He looked at the photo for a long time. Then my mother stormed across the yard. You come to my reunion, she shouted, and embarrass me in front of everyone? I stood slowly. No one embarrassed you. Everything you have is because I raised you. You raised Madison, I answered. You gave me whatever was left. Gasps spread through the yard. I treated you all the same, she yelled. No, I said quietly. You didn't. Her face twisted. You were always difficult. Always sensitive. Felt strangely calm. For once, I wasn't the emotional one. She was. I didn't make myself the ugly one, I said. You did. The yard went completely silent. Nobody defended her. Not one person. My mother started crying. But they weren't sorry tears. They were caught tears. Victim tears. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said the thing I should have said years earlier. I'm leaving. And I walked away. Chloe stood beside her car waiting. She handed me an envelope. The official offer letter, she said. October cover story. Thanked her. Then I looked back one final time. Brenda sat alone near the fence. Madison stared at her phone. My mother stood surrounded by relatives pretending to comfort her. Only my father watched me. Neva. She ran over before I left. Aunt Harper, she asked breathlessly. Can I visit one of your buildings someday? Smiled. Anytime. She hugged me tightly. Simple. Honest. No performance. Got into my car. On the passenger seat sat the magazine layouts, the offer letter, and the graduation photo. I drove away without looking in the mirror. About 50 miles later my phone buzzed. Text from my father. 2 words. Proud always. I pulled over because suddenly I couldn't see the road clearly anymore. I cried for the little girl in the yellow dress. For the teenager hiding behind plants and photographs. For the woman who spent 34 years trying to earn love from people determined not to give it. Then I wiped my eyes and kept driving. 3 months later the magazine was released. My face appeared on the cover. The same face my family called ugly for decades. My father framed the magazine. He hung it beside Madison's graduation picture in the living room. My mother never took it down. She never acknowledged it either. Simply existed there. A quiet truth she could no longer erase. Madison texted once. Saw the magazine. Congrats. I replied. Thank you. Nothing else. Brenda never contacted me again. Uncle Trevor sent me a handwritten letter. I should have spoken up years ago, he wrote. I kept the letter beside my father's folder. That Thanksgiving I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to an abandoned gas station I had seen near the highway. Broken windows. Vines climbing the roof. Most people would drive past without noticing it. But I noticed. Because I understood what it felt like to be ignored. I walked around the building taking measurements. Photographs. The bones were still strong. It could become something beautiful again. Which, in preservation terms, we call finding a building, structurally sound but emotionally neglected. I related. Back at my office, the evening sunlight filled the room. I opened the old shoebox. Inside were all the photos I took of myself over the years. My first apartment. My first drafting table. My license exam. Proof that I existed even when nobody else looked. I added 3 new pictures. The magazine cover. The gas station. And a photo of 10-year-old me hiding behind the plant. I placed that childhood photo beside the magazine cover. Small forgotten girl. Successful grown woman. Same person. Same heart. I looked at both photos for a long time. Then I whispered into the quiet office. Same girl. I closed the shoebox and placed it on the shelf. Some people collect trophies. Collect proof. Proof that I survived. Proof that I mattered. Proof that I was always worth seeing. Here's what I finally learned. You cannot force people to love you correctly. You cannot repair a family that refuses to admit it broke you. But you can build a life so strong that their approval stops mattering. Every building I restore begins the same way. Someone looks at it and says, "It's worthless." Then somebody else looks closer. They see the structure underneath. The hidden beauty. The possibility. That was me. I was never ugly. I was simply standing in the wrong room. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place?